Welcome back to Cohort W. I'm your Season 4 host, Chief Warrant Officer 4, Jessie Morlan. And in this episode, we're doing something a little different. Today, we're turning the spotlight toward the group that doesn't always get heard in PME discussions, the warrant officers who are currently living it. Over the past episodes, we've heard from senior leaders, doctrine writers, and instructors. But this time, we're bringing you the voice of the WOBC student, the warrant officers who just took the leap of faith, put on that bar, and stepped into the world of professional military education with a fresh set of eyes, years of NCO experience behind them, and a future ahead shaped by rapid modernization. Over the summer, I had the unique opportunity to walk beside this next generation. From July through September, I stepped out of my usual role and into the 420 Alpha Warrant Officer Basic Course at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, to earn my own additional MOS and begin my transition from a 420 Charlie Bandmaster to a 420 Alpha Human Resources Technician. I didn't just observe from a distance, I trained alongside them. Same PT, same academic standards, same stress, and same growth. And I'll tell you, the perspective I gained from sitting in the classroom with these new warrant officers was powerful. These W1s aren't blank slates. They bring years of enlisted leadership, combat experience, and insight from regular Army, Reserve, and National Guard formations. They are the cohort that will be most affected by how PME modernizes, and they've got a lot to say. So for this episode and for this project, we're approaching PME from two angles. First, we interviewed several students during the opening phase of WOBC just after the first couple weeks of training. Let's hear what they had to say when they were still fresh into the experience, still forming impressions, and already engaging critically with the course content. Here are the first set of questions. Let's start by getting to know each of you a little better. Can you introduce yourself with your name, component, military background, and what led you to pursue the path of becoming a 420 Alpha?
Yes. Hello. So my name is Stephanie Fitzgerald. I'm a WO1. My component is active duty. My background is that I've been in for 11 years. Prior to becoming a 420 Alpha, I was a 42 Alpha. I've worked at the battalion level, brigade level, also instructed as an AIT instructor. And what led me to become a warrant officer was that I wanted to influence and also just wanted to be able to learn more of the technical side and help the force in those ways.
Yes, I'm WO1 Rangel Denise. I'm active duty component. My military background, I've been in almost 8 years. I've been part of military intelligence units, and I've also been part of USAREC, which is recruiting command. I've trained with the special forces teams. I've trained with our international counterparts. And then once I came over to the States, I decided that I kind of wanted a different challenge. I wanted to go back into the AG world, considering that I was out of it for a while. So I wanted to figure out what was next for me in my career. I was an E6 prior to becoming a warrant officer, about to make E7. And I'm like, okay, this is great, but I can do better. And I want to do more for my Army. Had a lot of conversations about whether I should go the officer route or the warrant officer route. And I did my research. And the way that I came to my conclusion was it's a little funny. I had a very bad experience with a warrant officer in one of my previous units. They pretty much were like, you're not going to make it. And I made it my mission to not just to them to prove them wrong, but I know that it's a challenge, and I know that I have way more to offer than just on the enlisted side. And I wanted that to expand, to grow. And the way that I can do that is by being the warrant officer in the unit. I don't have to be too much hands-on, but like we've been saying in class, I'm that glue. I'm going to be the person that not just wraps my arms around the NCOs, but also the officers, because I'm in both shoes and I've been in the enlisted shoes.
I am Warrant Officer 1. My component is active duty. My military background, I've been in the military for about 9 years. I was stationed at Campbell and then Hawaii. And next I'll be going to Fort Carson. And what led me to be a warrant officer, I had a great mentor. And when I became Battalion S1, NCOIC, that was the go-to person. They were very poised. They knew everything. If I was to go to somebody else, they would refer me back to my warrant officer. So I definitely love that. And being a warrant officer now, I want to be like that. So I want to be the go-to person, the expert in my field. I love being in human resources. So that's why I want to become a warrant officer.
I am W1 Brianna Henderson. My component is active duty Army. My military background consists of, working at the battalion level for the most part. I spent some times in a field artillery battalion. Also, a time in a basic training battalion. And then I've also, worked at the First Corps in the G1. I've never worked at the brigade level, just always worked really closely with them. But that's kind of what it consists of. I've always been in HR. I've been in for 12 years. So it led me on the path to becoming a warrant officer. I've actually always known that I wanted to be a warrant officer. It was something that I learned about in AIT. And right when I heard it, without knowing what an NCO was or an officer was, when I learned about what a warrant officer was, I just kind of knew. However, when I did start the process of becoming a warrant officer, I was actually rejected and was told that, hey, I wasn't ready. And that kind of deterred me a little bit. It deterred me a little bit. And I kind of started to question why I wanted to become a warrant officer. And if it was really what I wanted, I had to do a lot of deep reflection and things like that. Because job satisfaction was a really big thing for me. And so what I would say kept me on that path of pursuing it was just off of, the idea that, I knew that I was meant to impact a little more than I was at that time. I knew that I had a lot to give professionally, and I don't know, it just kind of made sense for me. It just made sense for me. I knew that I had a lot to bring to the cohort. Not that they needed it, right? But I knew that I had a lot to give, and I knew that I was knowledgeable, and I knew that I needed a challenge. I knew that, my brain was just a little different in the way that I thought about things. And sometimes I felt like that was a little bit too complex for what I was already doing. And I felt like that was what I needed, especially as I started to learn more and more and more and more about it. So.
All right. Good afternoon, sir. I am Warrant Officer 1, Brianna Saylor, and I currently serve in the Texas Army National Guard, and I am the 72nd IBCT HR Tech. And for a little bit about my background, I've been in about 14 years. I originally enlisted in the Florida Army National Guard, and I was air defense. So I haven't always been a 42 Alpha. But once I got to Texas, I started working as an admin NCO. I did a little retention, AWOL packets, things like that. And then I went on to be a company training NCO. I served at the brigade level as the assistant S1. I went to battalion S1 for my E7 time, and now I'm back at brigade as their HR tech. So I think I've always just naturally been being groomed for it. I've always worked under warrant officers as a 42 and when I was air defense. So I think I've always just had someone where I've been looking up to them, and they've been, showing me what right looks like. And that just somehow kept happening until I dropped a walks packet.
Yes, sir. So my name is W1 Kyle Rivers. I enlisted in the Army, active Army, in 2016. I went to basic training, AIT, here at the Great Fort Jackson, went off to airborne school at Fort Benning. And then after that, I PCS my first unit, Center of the Universe, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I was in 1st Brigade 82nd Airborne Division. I was there as an E Fuzzy, E1, all the way up to Sergeant E5, about 3.5 years there. After that, I PCS during COVID to Saudi Arabia. I worked in a security assistance office as an admin NCO, which is one of my favorite experiences in the Army so far. After I did a year there, PCS to JBLM, served in the 1-2 Striker Brigade. I was a battalion S1 NCOIC at the time for a couple of years. From there, PCS to Naples, Italy, to the Allied Forces South Battalion. I was there for a couple of years. It was a 3-year tour, but in that tour, I applied to become a warrant, so I cut my tour a year short. But I worked in the Battalion S3 in operations, which is a great experience because us 420 or 42 Alphas, AG professionals, we don't get to work in operations much. So that was a great experience. And again, while I was there, I applied to become a warrant, got selected, and came here. What was the driving factor for me to become a warrant was during my time at JBLM, I was at Battalion S1 and 2IC when our legacy systems went down and IPSA was coming up, and our entire brigade was just on fire. But our shining light was our HR tech at the time. His name was Chief Jessie Lingerfeld. I want to make sure I give him a shout out. He really guided us during those tough times. He was super knowledgeable on IPSA. I believe before the system came up, he worked at HRC on the IPSA system for a few years. So he had a ton of knowledge. And we, as a brigade, all the battalion S1s, we relied on him heavily for everything. And I remember just thinking to myself, I would like to be that one day. I would like for people to rely on me and have my knowledge and my voice be heard throughout, a type of organization like that. And that kind of pushed me to want to become a warrant officer, to become as knowledgeable and as trusted as he was one day. So that was my driving factor.
All right. So my name is Jose Alicea, Warrant Officer 1, Jose Luis Alicea Garcia. I am from Puerto Rico. So a little bit of my background. I joined the Army in 2012 as an horizontal construction engineer. So nothing related to what HR is, which is my current MOS. Joined in 2012, these 6 years as a horizontal construction engineer. I mobilized. I deployed I spent like 6 months in Kuwait, or no, like probably 5 months, and then eventually moved to Afghanistan. Learn a lot about horizontal construction engineering over there. Then came back, just to make the long story short, came back to Puerto Rico. And a friend of mine offered me, like, hey, what do you think if we join the AGR program? So we both submitted our application for the AGR program, and we both got selected. He actually stayed in Puerto Rico as a horizontal construction engineer. But for me, the only thing they had available was supply or HR. I selected HR because the position was in Miami. That was my first tour. It was awesome. So that's how I began my journey as an HR. Did my first tour in Miami, where I actually learned everything I know as far as HR goes. I had to reclass. Came here to Fort Jackson to reclass. I think it was 2018. After that, came back to the reserve and noticed that everything I learned during my reclass pretty much I had to relearn because we at the time used different systems. Right now, we all moved to IPSE, but back then we all have different systems. So it was pretty challenging at first, getting to learn all those systems, and especially being a reclass, I didn't know regulation doctrines. So it was pretty challenging those first few years to learn my craft, and it's one of the main reasons that I pursue being a warrant officer is because a lot of the knowledge that I gained throughout those years, it was from a warrant officer. I was there directly working with Chief Harris. She's a CW4 now, but she was the one that um, pretty much took me under her wing and will return a lot of actions that I also made that were not correct. Will correct me, will give me advice like, hey, you need to learn how to do this better. So she never sugarcoated anything. So that made me a better HR, and that's how I pursue being a warrant officer.
So I am Warrant Officer 1, Rebecca Bowman, and I'm in Compo 2 in the Pennsylvania Army National Guard. I've been in the service for 16 years, and I'm currently in the G1 at Fort Indiantown Gap in the casualty branch. I'm the casualty branch chief there. I deployed to Kuwait in 2020 to 2021 with the Aviation Brigade. And really, after that experience is what kind of pushed me into wanting to be a warrant officer. I wanted to do something bigger than myself and have a bigger impact. And I felt like as an NCO, I wasn't able to have that change that I wanted to implement. So that's really and I had a lot of people that I deployed with or worked with prior to that thought I would be a good fit for the Warrant Officer Corps.
So before stepping into WOBC, we all had expectations, whether shaped by mentors, past training, or word of mouth. What were your expectations coming into the course, and did you have any specific hopes or concerns about the PME side of things? Ms. Fitzgerald?
The expectations that I had was that it was going to be very fast paced, admin heavy, and I was just hopeful to learn the systems, especially IPSE, into a deeper realm, because my last job I wasn't really into a 42 alpha position. So I just wanted to learn IPSE and data analysis because that's what we are walking into out in the force. PME, I thought the PME was going to be just a basic PME that was going to be cookie cutter, where it was like a check the block. But actually coming here, it really wasn't. We're definitely learning things. We have an awesome instructor who's had lots of experience in the 420 Alpha realm. And then it just delivered more than what I thought that it was going to deliver being in this course.
Ms. Rangel?
Before stepping into WOBC, I had zero expectations. I came here with a clear mind. You hear things from people, it's going to be hard and it's going to be a challenge and this is going to be fun or it's going to be boring, and you hear everything. But I'm the type of person, like, when I come into something, I like to come at it with a clear mind, with an open mind, so that I could form my own idea and my own thoughts about the experience. Considering that I was out of the world, the AG world, for so long, I just told myself it's going to be hard because you're not going to remember everything, or it's going to start clicking when you start talking about it, especially on the POI. But just go in with a clear mind. Think of this as a good thing. While everybody has all these thoughts and opinions about what's going on, you're fresh. You're not on either side on this is wrong and POI is right or POI is wrong. You're just here to learn, which is going to be very beneficial because I'm going to be the person that one has no expectations. Like what you teach me is what I'm going to learn, but also gives me the foundation that what is being taught to me is just that, the foundation. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to expand on that. Now I'm going to go back in and go into the doctrine, the regulations, and expand on that knowledge. So I really had no good or bad expectations. I just came in with good faith that everything is going to work out on its own. When it comes to my mentors, I actually didn't have that many warrant officer mentors. I really started to gain a mentor this year when I went to a warrant officer event while I was in a course here at Fort Jackson. And a lot of the people around me said that I reminded them of a specific person. And I kind of just took it upon myself, very nervous because I was still at E6 at the time, but I'm very nervous. I've never spoke to this person. This person never knew who I was. And I was like, hey, I'm about to be a warrant. And I heard that they remind you of me. Can we set up an interview? And from then on, it was like we clicked. It's been a great mentor-mentee relationship, and their guidance has been amazing, even through the experience. They pretty much said the same thing that I have been. Come into this open-minded. You're there to learn, have fun, but at the same time, you're there for a purpose. And that's something that has stuck with me throughout this whole time. Any concerns about the PME side? Not really. Like I said, I'm here to learn. I'm here to have a good time.
All right. Awesome. Miss Younger.
My expectations coming here was just to network, dive a little bit deeper into doctrine because I need to, learn more about it. And then IPSE. I want to know about data. So I'm not too savvy with it, but that was my expectations coming here. And then my hopes for PME, same kind of things. Yeah.
Miss Henderson.
I was pretty excited. I wouldn't say that I had any concerns for it. I kind of came into it like it was, one of those, like, just a typical military course is how I came into it. The one thing that I did hope to kind of get out of it was networking, because, I know that the warrant officer, cohort is super small, and I just wanted to, hopefully build some lifelong relationships, with people that would now be my peers. So that's kind of what I hope to get out of the course. And did I have any concerns about it? I wouldn't say that I had any concerns about it, about the PME side. I just kind of expected that it would be one of those typical courses.
Miss Saylor.
Well, for my personal expectations, I really just wanted to kind of sharpen my understanding of, our core HR functions. I wanted to just kind of get a little bit more data literate. Those were my expectations, but a lot of people told me, unfortunately, the PME is not going to be that great, but it's all about the networking. And almost everybody I talked to told me they still talk to their, peers from WOBC, and it's, been years and years later. So I think for this course, I'm just trying to get as much as I can out of it and keep those relationships for many years to come.
Mr. Rivers.
Yes, sir. So, when we first got here, our instructor, Chief Ricker, he said, one of the things he said in the first week is be humble and be open-minded. And I thought I was. I wasn't. I really thought I would come here just to learn how to troubleshoot IPSE. That's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to learn. And because I felt, 9 years of experience doing this, I didn't need to learn anything else. I'm pretty well versed. I'm not. We've been here for about 3 weeks now, and I've been humbled a few times. So it definitely forced me to open my mind up a little bit more, especially when we start talking about officer promotions, talent management for officers, evaluations for officers, stuff that I never touched in my 9-year career. And now we're expected to be subject matter experts in that realm as well as enlisted. It's super humbling, but I'm enjoying the experience. And also the experience from my classmates. We all different backgrounds, but together, sharing that knowledge that we have in that experience is definitely helping me out quite a bit. Some concerns I had about becoming a PME. I don't know if it's specifically PME. I was here at the schoolhouse about 6 or 7 months ago for N2ES, and I didn't have the best experience there. And I was kind of dreading coming back so soon. 6, 7 months later, I was like, I don't really want to go back to the schoolhouse, and things sometimes were all over the place. Schedules always changing. But I have to give a lot of credit to our instructor again, Chief Ricker, because things have changed in the first couple of weeks. But his ability to adjust and smoothly transition our schedule and make everything still feel coherent. And most of the time, the adjustments are just so we can stay on a specific topic that we're struggling on, like officer promotions, computations, which we are all having a great time learning. But he shifted the schedule so we can stay on that topic a little bit more, so the entire class can understand how that operates. I give a lot of credit to him.
Mr. Alisea.
Okay, so expectations, to be honest, didn't have a lot of expectations as far as like never had the time to kind of think about the course. I just so for the reserve component, since I was AGR, I have to refrat from the program to pursue being a warrant officer. So during that process, at the time I was stationed in Fort McCoy. I was in the NCO Academy, so I have to refrat. I moved to Puerto Rico, back to Puerto Rico because my wife is AGR as well. So we moved back to Puerto Rico. So it was a whole bunch of stuff going on. So I didn't have time to kind of, think about what the course is going to be, what it's going to be like. I did expect it to be better than WOCS, be more focused on the academic side of being an HR tech. I do expect for expect for the course to challenge my knowledge in the system, especially me getting out of like my last tour. I was an instructor for the NCO Academy, so I wasn't exposed a lot to IPSE. So for me, that was my biggest fear coming in here. It was like I haven't worked a lot with IPSE, so I think that is what I want to take out of here the most is just at least getting that foundation in what is going to be our main system.
Ms. Bowman.
So expectations coming into the course. I talked to people prior to me going, and I was told like, oh, you'll be fine as far as like the curriculum and everything. I just wasn't sure how our group would be, because previous classes, one class was kind of divided where Compo 1 and Compo 2 kind of separated themselves. So I just wasn't sure how all the personalities were going to be kind of like coming in. I didn't think I would really have an issue with like the material aspect of it. And any specific hopes or concerns? So I was kind of told that it was geared more towards active duty. So I kind of had that mindset going in that we wouldn't really apply anything to Compo 2, but I think the instructor has done a good job at letting the other compos speak and kind of give guidance or be able to say like how we do things on that side of the house, which I think has been really good so far. And it is good to know how Compo 1 does do things, but at the same time, like when I go back, I'm going to do it the way the National Guard wants me to do stuff too. So it's a give and take as far as that.
So we're just wrapping up our first few weeks of WOBC. Plenty of PT, admin, and foundational instruction. From your perspective, what stood out the most so far? Any surprises or positive takeaways? Ms. Fitzgerald.
I think the thing that stood out the most so far was just how strong the cohort really is. A lot of people talk about it before I switched over to 420 Alpha, but I actually see it now being inside of the cohort. I see how strong each individual is in their own ways, and how we do link together to help each other out. And then I think the thing that shocked me the most was how fast our class 004005-25, how fast our class bonded. It's week 3 and we are all just one and always helping each other out, whether the component, whether where we're stationed at, we're really bonded together, and I really do appreciate that.
Ms. Rangel.
What stood out to me the most is the friendships that I've built in just this short amount of time. We all go to PMEs and we all go to TDYs and all that stuff. And we all meet that one person that we still click, or, maybe two. But since I've been here, I've met a group of girls and guys that have not just been a big part of the POI and just WOBC, but they've been a big part of my life in these 3 weeks. Aside from school, everybody has personal stuff going on. So the fact that they could kind of reel me back in it's amazing. We're up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning just having girl talk, or we're up till 10 or 9 o'clock p.m. because we're studying for the next test. And I find that crazy. And I find that crazy because every PME I've been to, I don't study. I'm not going to lie. I don't study. I don't go back to my room and study. I go in, I do my work, I go back, I do my homework, and I go to bed because love what I do, but most of the tests have been control F. We're pros at that. We're 42s. We're pros. But this course, I've had to actually study and put my best foot forward. Well, I've always put my best foot forward. Cut that out. But I didn't have to put in the time because I already knew that stuff. I was already doing it. I was here as a check the block type thing. But this school is crazy because I get all the sides. I get the, come on, we got to study. How did you do on your test? You good? To let's go have a cup of coffee. To let's go have some fun. And that has been the best thing that stood out to me in a great way. And these are friendships that they're, like I said, they're friendships. They're not just colleagues. These are people that I know are going to be out there for me when I have a question on the job or when I have a question off the job. And I love that the PT is great. The admin is great. The short days, long days, they're great. The instructions, the POI is great. But these connections, this networking, like we've been talking about, has been the best thing so far and the thing that has stood out to me the most.
Miss Younger.
What stood out is the instructor. He takes his time with the students. Any questions that we have, he takes his time and dives deeper into whatever we're talking about. And I would say collaborating with the other compos. I haven't had the experience with Compo 2 or Compo 3, so I've just been active duty. So to hear what they do with human resources kind of been insightful. And then the class discussions that we have, I love it every morning. Our current events, just opening up conversation and getting people's feedback and perspective.
Ms. Henderson.
What has stood out to me the most? I would probably say the diversity in the class. There is so much diversity. I think the one thing that has stood out to me is the different perspectives of how we all attack our jobs as HR professionals, from the National Guard to the Reserve and to, active duty. I definitely did not expect for there to be so many differences, but I've learned a lot.
Ms. Saylor.
Yeah, so I think the most, one of the biggest surprises to me was how many intelligent people we have in our classroom. And I think, when we're in our units, we're seeing so many different ranks, MOSs. We don't always see that. But here it's just been a lot of smart people in one room. And we just continue to share all of our knowledge with each other, and it's just making us even more smarter. And I think we've built such a rapport so quick in that classroom that it's really become, a positive environment.
Mr. Rivers.
I have to say the knowledge of our instructor, Chief Ricker. So we have Compo 1, 2, and 3 in our course. And obviously I'm Compo 1 for 9 years. I don't know much about Compo 2 or 3. And so is our instructor, is Compo 1 guy for his entire career. But every single topic that we've talked about so far, his ability to interject and talk about and facilitate lessons, whether it's Compo 1, 2, or 3, was really it's really surprising how knowledgeable he is about Compo 2 and 3 without ever serving, in those roles. And I think that kind of pushed me or motivated me to want to learn more about Compo 2 or 3. Because he said in the class, we talk about all the time, you never know when you're in a situation when you're working with Compo 2 or 3 personnel. I'll give a quick example. When I was deployed in Afghanistan, our commanding general of the area we were in, he was a Texas National Guardsman. Mind blown. So we had a whole bunch of Texas National Guard guys working at the G1. And you guys operate, Compo 2 or 3 operate completely different in some areas than Compo 1. So that was the biggest, one of the biggest takeaways for me so far, and wanting to learn more about Compo 2 and 3.
Mr. Alasea.
So far, I think what surprised me the most is the knowledge that we have in the classroom. And I think it's perfect the ratio that we have between Compo 1, Compo 2, and Compo 3, and how we all share our experiences, and how even despite being on the same army, how we all have our differences and our challenges. All depends the component we're in.
Ms. Bowman.
So what stood out the most so far is how our class has gelled for the most part, and you're really seeing like other perspectives, and no one's really, in my opinion, no one's really like stood out. I feel like there's several people that have like kind of stepped up in the class, but as a whole, I think we've all kind of brought something to the table, which is like great to see. And it is kind of surprising with us having 35 people that's happened. But I think it's a kudos to like having a good variety of all the compos in there. And I think we've been doing a really good job at like networking in there, and everybody has been like perceptive to talking to everybody. Like no one's really been like to themselves or anything. So I think that's great to see.
All right, so that completes part 1 of the WOBC project. And of course, I didn't stop there. To truly understand the value and impact of WOBC, I came back. 2 weeks after graduation, I reconnected with those same warrant officers to find out what had changed, what stuck, and how their outlook has evolved once they've gotten back or are continuing to transition back to the operational force. Now that you've successfully completed WOBC, what's your current assignment and how are you applying what you learned in the course to your new role? And additionally, in hindsight, were there any aha moments or elements of the course that significantly shifted your approach as a warrant officer?
Okay, so my name is Warrant Officer 1, Stephanie Fitzgerald, and after completing the course of WOBC, I am assigned to 5th Corps, which is at Fort Knox, Kentucky. So I will be staying at Fort Knox, but I will be going to a different unit as a WO1. And now that I've completed WOBC, I've transitioned back into my assignment with a much clearer understanding of my role as a human resource technician. The course helped me shift my mindset from strictly just executing tasks as an NCO to thinking critically and holistically as a warrant officer. Looking at systems, processes, and how decisions at my level impact the formation at large. One of the biggest moments, like aha moments that I had, was whenever we were doing the IPSE lessons in this course. And data analytics, where I realized how powerful accurate data is for advising commanders and shaping operational decisions instead of just processing actions. I'm not able to use HR systems to analyze trends, forecast impacts, and provide solutions that shift thinking beyond transactions to strategy has already changed how I approach daily challenges.
Hi, I'm Denise Rangel, and I am currently assigned to the Third ID HR company. I am still new to the role, so most of the things that I am looking forward to doing based on what I learned in WOBC are just understanding my role in general. So that includes actually understanding what the company does, what my role as the new tech is. It also involves me making training plans and going over the things that are lacking in the unit. So since I finished WOBC, I've applied a lot of the things that I have learned, such as identifying those elements and going in and learning the structure of Third ID in general, which is down at Fort Stewart, Georgia, and just going over how I can apply what I've previously known and what I've recently learned and continue to learn so that I could be the best tech that HR company has. I think I had a lot of aha moments just because I am coming back from being away from the human resources field. So a lot of the things, especially those little small details and the small things that some of the other techs have already experienced since they have been in their positions that I just did not know. That includes like Microsoft. I think that was something that was very big, using Microsoft Excel and just going over learning how to make graphs and all these different things. It just made a lot of the small, I wouldn't say small, but a lot of the details that as normal, everyday, we just continuously do, and we think that it's the easiest way, that it just shapes it to be something so much easier and so much easier on the eye as well.
Hi, my name is Miss Maya Younger. My current assignment is at Fort Carson in Colorado. Some ways I'll be able to apply what we learned in the course would be strength management, HR system integration, advising commanders on personal readiness, so like HR metrics. And then one aha moment for me was realizing that as a warrant officer, it's not about anticipating problems rather than just solving them. The course really emphasized on critical thinking and understanding the bigger picture. So that definitely shifted my mindset from being an NCO to becoming a warrant officer now. Um, so my name is W01 Brianna Michelle Henderson, and following the graduation of WOBC, my follow-on assignment will be at the fourth ID DSB in Fort Carson, Colorado, and I'm going to be the Human Resource Operations Branch HR Technician. That's the HR Technician. And so to your question about like how am I applying or how do I plan to apply what I've learned in the course to my new role, it's really interesting, right? Because for the HROP, anyone who is like familiar, with the role of an HR tech know that it's like really hard to, it's so like that role itself, it has a role, whenever we're going forward in theater, right, during deployments, right? Like they have a clear role, stated in the FN1-0 regulation, right? So that's like clearly stated. But when it comes to being in garrison, like that's not clearly stated. And, that in itself can kind of like pose some challenges when it comes to, figuring out how to stay relevant, figuring out what your roles and responsibilities are, and like understanding how you and where you fall, into your unit, right? And so like just kind of like learning that, and even learning that I would be going into the role, I was just kind of nervous because I knew that I was probably not going to be deploying. And I knew that I would have to like figure that out for myself, right? And so like just kind of going through WOBC and networking and talking to other warrant officers who've been in the role, and even talking to people at, my gaming unit, I've been getting a lot of advice on like how to, I've been getting a lot of advice about like what my roles and responsibilities are, what they may be, and like the best way to kind of integrate myself. And like just based off of everything that we've learned in WOBC, when it comes to building relationships, advising, and my favorite analogy is like being the bridge against, between like enlisted and, officers. What I feel like I will be applying is like learning, one, how to integrate, but also, navigating how to do exactly that in my role. And so I'll kind of give you an example of that. While I was talking to, someone at my gaming unit, the advice that they gave me is ensuring that I am integrated with the DSB HR tech, like the S1 HR tech, as well as like other entities in the unit. And so like having that conversation with them and getting their advice on how they think that I should integrate myself, and, the type of people that I should be in contact with, the type of people that I should reach out to, gain more understanding about their jobs. I don't know. I feel like it just kind of came together for me. I'm still not like sure how it will look for me exactly, but what I anticipate is, having to be what's the word? Not aggressive, but like being intentional about integrating myself, right? And being present in those meetings, being, just being present and being, not hiding in the shadows like, some people, think that human resource techs do. So I think for me, the aha moment was like in the conversations that I've had with people about, that's a hard question because I'm not necessarily in the role just yet. So, I haven't had any aha moments like being in the role, but just based off of the conversations, I would say that I've had those moments, when talking to them and they're kind of explaining to me what my role is going to be or who I should talk to and why those relationships and why that integration is so important. Because in the past, that wasn't always the case. And that's why, certain people may not have been successful. And so like just, learning from Chief Ricker and, learning from other HR techs, I feel like the aha moment was understanding the importance of being present, integrating, and building those relationships with people.
So this is Warrant Officer 1, Brianna Saylor, and I'm currently the 72nd IBCT Brigade HR Tech for the Texas Army National Guard. I think as far as what I learned in WOBC, it's really shown in my day-to-day, especially when it comes to strength management, readiness reporting, and just advising commanders. And I think the biggest shift for me was just realizing how different the warrant officer role is compared to being an NCO. So as an NCO, I was focused on execution and just making sure tasks got done. But now as a warrant officer, I'm looking 2 or 3 levels higher and thinking about how, different personnel decisions really impact readiness across the formation. So that was really my aha moment, was just understanding that my role isn't just about doing the work anymore. It's about shaping outcomes and giving commanders options.
Hey, sir. Thanks for allowing me to do this. This is WO1 Kyle Rivers. So I'm still on PCS leave. I'm on my way to Fort Drum. I'll be driving up there sometime next week. To my understanding, I'll be sitting in the Division G1 for a few months before I go down and become a brigade HR tech. So I plan on using a lot of the knowledge that I've learned over the past 8 weeks, applying it to my day-to-day job at the G1, probably doing some strength manager stuff, which we've gone over significantly during the course. So learning that, getting some real hands-on, and applying the baseline knowledge that we learned over the 8 weeks. I think it was very beneficial for us to go do that, because I think that's what I'm going to be doing for the next few months. So, going through WOBC, SLC, ALC, I think one thing that's lacking, and I don't know if this is possible for the schoolhouse to get this done, is we talk about a lot of stuff. We talk about a lot of systems. But I feel like it'll be very beneficial if we can actually get some hands-on on these systems. Because talking about it's great. That baseline knowledge is definitely beneficial when you go to your new unit. You're like, oh, yeah, I did learn this, or I remember hearing about this. But actually sitting there and using it, so when you get to your new unit, you can say, oh, I got this. Let me turn this on and power this up and get after it. For example, TPS, the tactical personnel system that we talked about a little bit. I've never used it before, but going to Fort Drum and 10th Mountain, I think it's going to be used a lot because those guys get after it in terms of deployments. So if I could have gotten a little hands-on with the TPS, I think it would have helped me quite a bit before I got there.
Oh, hello. I am Warrant Officer 1, Alicea. I am currently assigned in the 166 HAC RSG out of 1st MSC in Puerto Rico. I'm the HR tech for that brigade. And now that I finished or completed WOBC, even though I was already, since I'm a reserve soldier, I was already drilling with my unit. However, after completing WOBC, I realized that I needed more hands-on training. So that's something that I am incorporating now that I'm back in my unit. I'm trying to, stay current with the system since I didn't have a lot of hands-on training. The other thing I'm really trying to implement a lot is previously I only worked with maybe 100, couple of 100 soldiers. So dealing with the data in the Excel spreadsheet was easy, even without a vast knowledge of the system, even without knowing formulas or knowing the pivot tables, the slicers that we learned during WOBC. So that's is something that I'm definitely going to incorporate moving forward, is how to work with data when it comes to having thousands of soldiers. Now it's definitely more easy to present that data to commanders in a simpler way with pivot tables and slicers. It's something really, really helpful when we are dealing with a couple of thousand of soldiers. Following on with the aha moments, I would say maybe I realized like the influence that warrant officers actually have on commanders' decisions, and how important it is to take that data and actually make it digest that data to advise the commanders on the risk they have and on the readiness. It's not just about presenting the data. It's about explaining and make it easy for commanders to understand what are going to be those risks that they're facing when making that decision, and how ready we are as a unit.
Hi, this is Warrant Officer 1, Rebecca Bowman. So my current assignment is at the state as the casualty branch chief. I should be in that position for another 3 years or so. And with that being said, I'm just trying to be more present in like any meetings that are at the state, even if it doesn't directly deal with me, just being in the know, because I'm not going to be in that position forever. So that was like one of the takeaways.
So WOBC is just the beginning of our professional education as warrant officers. Based on your experience in this course and your previous time as an NCO, what areas do you think future PME phases should focus on to truly prepare 420 Alphas for enterprise-level challenges, strategic sustainment planning, and operating in multi-domain environments? Ms. Fitzgerald.
So based on my time in WOBC course, which I had, it was a good time for me. I think that WOBC laid a strong foundation, but I think the future PME should push us further into the enterprise level of HR operations. As 420 Alphas, we need to be adept not only to technical HR systems, but also in understanding how HR intersects with sustainment, readiness, and talent management across the force. The PME should focus more on a large-scale manpower planning, operationalizing HR in the multi-domain environments, and integrating data analytics for predictive modeling. Also, courses should build more depth in advising commanders at the strategic level, teaching us how to frame problems, communicate solutions in a way that influence decision-making, and synchronize HR functions with broader operational goals. We touched a little bit on that in WOBC, but I think going more into depth into that when we go into these other PMEs, these more advanced PME courses. And then it just will help us to prepare us to serve as the connective tissue between tactical HR execution and strategic sustainment planning.
Ms. Rangel.
That's a good question. I would definitely say, I think, especially WOBC, being IET for us new warrants, it focused at least the first half on a lot of things that we already knew or should have known, and things that were just kind of generalized. I think moving forward, what I would expect would be the operational side of being a 420 and how we involve ourselves, because especially as prior NCOs, we're so used to just doing. Not everybody has the mindset of actually sitting there and understanding the role about to be in. So I would just say definitely being on the operational side of things. I would say incorporating more of the planning phase and how as HR techs we're included in the planning phase of just anything. That's to include exercises, that's to include actual training that's coming up, deployments, rotations, or whatever the case may be. I would think that actually going through those steps, and that might be something that is already incorporated, but I just think having that in future PMEs would be very beneficial. I also think on the strategic side as HR techs, maybe in WOBC, incorporating a lot of that um, just incorporating that in a little bit more. I feel like a lot of it was generalized and information, and we spent a lot of time on information that we already knew, which, I mean, for myself, it was very beneficial because, like I said, I am coming back into the world of HR. But at the same time, that's information that we should all know how to gather, how to get to. So I just think maybe if we are going to go over that information, just being able to dissect it in an operational level and a strategic level, and not just this is what you used to do. Let's just refresh it.
Miss Younger.
I think that WOBC is a solid foundation. Looking ahead, I think our PME could go deeper into things like Army talent management, large-scale force structure planning, operational planning, and understanding how HR decisions play into the joint and multi-domain operation. In WOBC, we touched a little bit of it, but I think that becoming warrant officers is important that we go into our brigades understanding fully. So PME should bridge the gap between that. And I think preparing us to not only think of our immediate formations, but understanding how sustainment and personnel readiness support the fight at the operational and strategic levels. So just training on data-driven decision-making, HR analytics, and integrating other sustainment functions, I think would also prepare 420 to advise commanders more effectively.
Ms. Henderson.
So I feel like I kind of mentioned this on the end of course critique, but when it comes to, outside of like LISCO and multi-domain operations, one thing I know that I mentioned, for future PME is for there to be more emphasis on IPSE, but more so in a light of like what HR technicians do, right? So like and one of my peers mentioned this as well, but so when it comes to IPSE, when it comes to like WOBC, we did go over IPSE, we did go in there a little bit, and we did like look at how to do certain transactions, but they also told us that we would not be doing those things because they were seen as like skill level 1 tasks, which they are. And so what I would say and what I would offer is to probably, make IPSE more focused on like what HR techs will be doing, right? Like troubleshooting, and trying to figure out why certain issues exist in IPSE, right? And kind of like going in the background to see where those problems come from. I think that would be extremely helpful in the future, at least for the WOBC PME. Now, I'm still, trying to figure out, how all of this fits when it comes to multi-domain operations and LISCO, like really like fully understanding it in order for me to like, be able to give my opinion on it. So I can't answer that part of the question right now because I'm a hands-on learner and I just haven't had the chance to have that. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Ms. Saylor.
Yes, so I really think WOBC gave us a great foundation, but it really is just a starting point. So for 420 Alpha specifically, I would like to see more on strategic sustainment planning and just how HR decisions really tie into the bigger sustainment fight and how it affects combat power. I think we also need to get sharper on how our different systems integrate and how to operate them in the multi-domain and joint environments. But I think just as important is the advising piece. So we're technical experts, but at the end of the day, our impact comes from how well we can communicate and how we influence commanders. And coming from the NCO side, I would just add that PME should also keep reinforcing mentorship and making sure that we're still connected to our soldiers and junior leaders while developing that enterprise level perspective.
Mr. Rivers.
So I think we talked about a lot Well, we talked a lot about what it would be like briefing a brigade level commander or higher, or what it would be like working side by side with your S2, your S4, your S6, your brigade staff. If there's a way to kind of pull, either a sitting brigade commander or someone who just left the seat, grab a couple S2, S4 guys and actually put together, I don't know, a small MDMP or maybe just a cub, so you can actually get real world experience of sitting there and briefing and knowing your role and knowing the overall operation. I think that'd be very beneficial because, again, I know we have but so much time in these courses, but to get that hands-on, like that real world experience as close as possible, I think would help a lot. So when we get to our new units, it's not like a shock to us when we're sitting in these rooms or these meetings. We're like, oh, well, we kind of talked about this in WOBC, but I never really experienced it. But getting a little bit more of real world experience in those areas, I think would help a lot.
Mr. Alicea.
Okay, so first of all, I will reiterate it's a training again. Even though it's been out for a couple of years, it's still a new system for a lot of HR techs and a lot of even HR NCOs that if we think about IPSA only being out for a couple of years, so there's a lot of people that were doing broadening assignments and things of that nature that haven't even worked on the system a lot. So for HR techs, I think for a couple more years, we should focus more on give that IPSA training during PME, and maybe in the future, then step back from giving that much IPSA training during PME. But as of now, for the next couple of years, since we have people that haven't touched the system yet, I think it is important for us to get more exposure during PME. I would say we should keep the MPTK training because that's something a lot of people don't actually know how to make those projections on personnel. How many people are we going to lose or lose in a combat situation? Having MPTK is something that me as a warrant officer never thought about before, like on how to make those projections so we could actually bring more people to theater when needed. So MPTK is definitely a sustainment for the WOBC course. I think it's something that definitely we need to keep up. Okay. Another thing that I will suggest is we should do more. Oh my goodness, what was it called?
The cumulative training exercise. Yeah, CTE.
So we should do more training just as a CTE, more realistic training, because that is something that helps us identify what are those key roles that we should be doing as warrant officers, and what are those details that we need to pay attention that, for the most part, maybe we don't see because we're not practicing that in a continuous base, especially for reserve soldiers. We don't do a lot of realistic training. So doing that realistic training makes you realize, right, how much work and how much attention and detail we need to have in order to advise those commanders on decisions. Also, I will add for PME to get us more exposure on working on op orders. We are trained on how to digest that op order, right, and make a plan of action based on it. But moving forward, we'll be part of that strategic level planning as far as making those op orders. So I would say getting our feet wet maybe for the first time for some of us in PME will be a good idea or a good training for us at this level as Warrant Officer 1s.
Ms. Bowman.
Okay.
So I feel that PME should help us operate more strategically across the entire force. Everybody is using IPSA now. However, each component does things a lot differently, which makes it hard to see one operational picture. So as far as the PME, I think there needs to be like one standard at the strategic level for us all to like come together, since we're coming together on like the technical side, so to speak, as far as like IPSA. So it would just be nice to see us all kind of have one way of doing things, I guess, so to speak, if that makes sense.
Thank you very much, Warrant Officers. And that completes our interviews for this special student-focused episode. What we heard was honest, thoughtful, and eye-opening. These warrant officers represent the voice of the future, 1 foot in the past, shaped by NCO experience, and 1 foot in the future, tasked with sustaining the force in increasingly complex environments. Their insights will help shape how we train, what we prioritize, and how we evolve PME to keep pace with the demands of warfighting and Army readiness. Additionally, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on my overview from my recent experience. So 1 year ago, I had a strong academic understanding of what the 420 Alpha human resources technician should do. I could quote doctrine, speak to formations, and reference FM 1-0, AR 600-8-6, and ADP 3-0. I understood how HR fit within the operational support framework of the Army. But after attending WOBC myself, training alongside newly appointed warrant officers from the regular Army, Army Reserve, and Army National Guard, I gained something else, a fresh perspective from the ground level. I didn't just observe the shift in transformation, I experienced it. I saw what today's 420 Alphas are expected to do at the tactical edge. I felt what's missing, and I understood what truly needs reinforcement. What I know now is that the gap between policy and practice, doctrine and deployment, is narrowing. The HR technician of today isn't just tracking accountability. They're synchronizing sustainment, enabling maneuver through human capital, and using data analytics to drive tempo. This is not admin work. It is warfighting through readiness. So where do we go from here? What needs to be rethought, reinforced, or rebuilt? Well, first, our future PME design must lean harder into multi-domain readiness, digital fluency, and HR as an operational enabler. It's not enough to learn systems. We must teach soldiers to think through systems, to anticipate failure points, to shape outcomes, not just inputs. Second, our instructional approaches for our basic courses must reflect the experience level of incoming warrant officers. These W1s are not junior. They're battle-tested, solution-driven NCOs stepping into strategic roles. We owe them more than just entry-level overviews. We owe them relevant complexity. And third, PME must never forget its purpose, to serve the warfighter and their mission, to deploy, fight, and win. Our HR leaders must be agile, informed, and unrelenting in support of that mission. So, across the season, we've spoken with senior warrant officers, PME developers, modernization leaders, and students, each voice helping shape the ongoing conversation about how we prepare the next generation of technical experts to lead, advise, and sustain. It's been a growing oeuvre of episodes, each documenting the shift from tradition to relevance, from check-in-the-box training to warfighting readiness. And with that, this concludes our episode. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Cohort W. I'm your Season 4 host, Chief Warrant Officer 4, Jessie Morlan. Until next time, be ready, be agile, and always lead from the front.